You create something, but the future is always a question mark. Would I be able to do again another good piece of music? And this sort of question mark and fragility that you have inside is the one that takes you to creating another piece of music that possibly is good.
Hello and welcome to The Big Interview. My guest today is Ludovico Einaudi. Born and touring in Italy, Ludovico's unique blend of classical, folk, and modern influences has made him one of the most recognized and indeed influential composers of our time. Known for his haunting piano pieces, Ludovico's music has touched audiences around the world, from his iconic film scores to his record-breaking concerts. His new 13-track album, The Summer Portraits, is out now, and he's gearing up for a 5-night residency at the Royal Albert Hall in London, the longest ever by a pianist. We'll chat about the inspiration behind the record, his creative process, and what's next for a man who just can't seem to slow down, despite the fact he'll be celebrating his 70th birthday this year. I'm Laura Kramer, and I spoke to Ludovico Einaudi on The Big Interview. Ludovico Einaudi, welcome to The Big Interview. When did you first get the idea for the Summer Portraits? What was the process like? Did you go into it thinking, I'm going to make a new album, or did you just start tinkering around on the piano and then eventually it just showed itself to you?
I didn't know anything. I just had sometimes I say because everything has to be planned in advance. So I say to the people I work with, yes, maybe in 1 year I will have the new album. Sometimes I know, but in this case, I didn't know anything about it. So I went with my family for a holiday in an island in Italy. We rented a house, and I was there. Basically, I didn't want to think too much at work. I needed a break from my routine of concerts and everything. And we arrived in the house, and as soon as I entered in my room, there was a beautiful bedroom, and I saw on the walls some beautiful little paintings that were evidently made by the same hand. They were little paintings made with oil on a piece of wood, and they were representing some views from around the house. So there was a bit of a pine forest with the sea in the distance, and other details of the surrounding nature, and maybe a chair. Then I started to look at them, and then I went into the other room and I saw others. And so I was very curious to understand who made those paintings. And I went to ask after a couple of days, and they told me that there was a family that was owning that house in around 1950s. And the lady, the mother of the family, she was painting every summer some new paintings and leaving them in the house, and they kept them around the house forever, and they are still there. And so that it was. I started to be inspired by the story of this family that I didn't know, and by that lady who was painting every year.
When you saw those paintings for the first time, what was it about them that struck you so deeply and made you start thinking about connecting them to your own music?
This thinking started to connect with my summers, with my childhood, and the time of my summer. That was a very long time, because in Italy, when I was going to school, we were spending 3 months of holiday, and in those 3 months. I remember that I was moving with my mother first. My father was coming for a shorter amount of time in August, but I was with my sisters and my mother spending 3 months in a different place. That was a place by the seaside. The idea of this time, that was 3 months, but inside me sounded like years, because you didn't have the perception of time was completely different from what it was in reality, because every day felt like a week, and every week felt like a month, and every month felt like a year. And we were completely free to do whatever we wanted. You would arrive there and take off your shoes and pick up your bicycle and stay from morning to night with your friends and enjoy the nature, because in all that the nature was a fundamental part of the experience. And after a little while, you felt like you were becoming part of it. You felt like you were part of the nature. You felt like a rabbit, because it was so wild that the experience of all this together changed everything, and made me feel like also I was learning life from that experience much more than the time that I was spending at school, where I was where the light was going off from the brightness of the summer, and so it was a very constricted time where you were connecting your life with darkness and with school, with the things that you had to learn, and but this everything was very theoretical, and compared to the other time that you were just living something very beautiful. And I think for me now, still after many years, that time is the time where I still bring all my more beautiful things that belong to my life, to my experience, to what I've lived, and what I've loved. And this is where I look inside me when I want to bring out some dreams and nice moments of my life.
I love how you describe the premise of summer. It feels like such a universal experience. I know for me, growing up in Romania, it reminds me of playing in the river with my cousins, picking cherries. Those special childhood summers really do stay with us forever. I know capturing that universal feeling was something you really wanted to explore. We will come back to that, but I found it so interesting that you went on holiday intending to step away from work, and yet you found yourself falling back into it again. Talk me through that.
Yeah, well, I was. It was not immediately that I started to think about that as a. I mean, also because my work is my life, and actually, I love it so much that I don't feel most of the time that I'm working. But sometimes I need to have a break from the pressure of doing too many things together, and I like to live just a normal and simple moment in my life. So I need also to have normal days where I don't do much. And but at the end, so I was reflecting about the summers, this and that, and then I came when I left that place. I started to think, as you said, that this is also not. It's a universal moment, the summer, that belongs to everybody in different ways. So you have your memories of the cherries. Someone else has maybe the summer in the mountains or somewhere else. And this is, I like the idea that is a universal connection, that everybody is connected with this idea, and I can talk with and listen to the summers of other people, and it's not just a moment of holiday, but I think it's more. It's a very important moment of our lives, because you are connected with the experience of living, just living and learning from the fact that you do things without someone is teaching you how to do it.
It's so true. Those memories do often feel like a film kind of playing in your head. I know for you, sensory experiences are such a key part of your work, especially the connection between visual art and music. It feels like a central theme of the album as well. How did you approach translating the emotion of the paintings into the music? I'm especially thinking about the Punta Bianca video. It's underwater. It evokes this feeling of swimming and, again, summer.
Yes. Well, it's a process that I try to approach, and sometimes I didn't even know if I will arrive to catch the. So, for example, you were talking about a video of the water from the boat, the Punta Bianca, and sometimes I try myself to do a video or to suggest something. In the video, for example, of Rose Bay, there are Super 8 film that I found in my house that were connecting with the summer, with some of my summer portraits. Sometimes I have, there is a director that try to express what I have in mind, and we catch the vibe together. It's a different. It's a process of experimenting many possibilities, and sometimes we arrive to an idea that matches everything. I have to say, honestly, the process of creation is not a process that is organized in a practical way. So there's a lot of unknown or in the process, a lot of possible failures and and sometimes you catch what you were dreaming of achieving. But sometimes you just try to follow an idea and really you don't know exactly where and how you will arrive to create it. For me, I mean, it's like that. So sometimes, maybe in that process this year, because I was starting maybe to work properly on the album last January, I started to feel the anxiety of having said, well, in June I will have an album. And at the beginning of January, even if it was 5 6 months, I had only some ideas, sketches, but I didn't exactly know how it was going to be everything. So I started to generally I have a moment of I get very anxious about the fact that I have to deliver something, and I start to work frantically around all the ideas, and this is this pressure in a way it's always positive because you are in a narrow road where you know that there is a end at a certain point, and so all your energies flow into this direction, into the same direction, and suddenly the ideas start to appear and after 3 months magically you have some music that you start to like, and then you start to select the ideas properly, and the more you proceed in the work, you are putting more details and everything comes to life. So this is what is still very beautiful about the fact that you create something, but the future is always a question mark. Would I be able to do again another good piece of music? And this is, I think, this sort of question mark and fragility that you have inside is the one that takes you to creating another piece of music that possibly is good.
You've also, speaking of the touring, you've also made history with a 5-night residency at the Royal Albert Hall. And I wondered, given the visual aspect of the album, how involved are you in the staging, in that whole process of bringing it to life in front of an audience?
I have a very good creative and artistic relation with the light designer that is a person that I've been working with since many years, and we have a very good creative exchange. So we talk about how we would like to see in general the stage, the kind of light. I tend to be more connected with an idea of lighting that is more analog. So I don't like too much digital lights. And sometimes since I take a lot of photographs, this is a second passion. that I have after music. There is a sort of visual world that I compose that is a parallel world that goes together with my music. And this is also creating a certain color that is helping the light designer to visualize some ideas. And then he's, of course, free to express what inspired him from my talks and from my photographs. So I know he will arrive to produce something beautiful.
I can't wait to see it. I'm very excited. You mentioned not being particularly fond of digital lighting, and it reminded me actually of a recurring theme we've noticed when speaking to other artists, particularly in the pop and rock genres. They often talk about how the digital aspect of music, especially streaming, has really shifted the focus, with most of their income now coming from touring rather than radio play. As someone from the classical music space, what's your take on this shift, and how have you seen that relationship change over the years?
There are two aspects, because one is the aspect of recording music or producing, if you produce images of creating images with, I don't know, for example, in photography, you can work with films. I find that very interesting to work also with older technology, because the fact that sometimes is the imperfection that makes the things more interesting than controlling every detail of what you do. And so basically, I tend to record my music with a mix of old technology and new technology. And for example, I use microphones from the 1960s. And of course, I record on with a computer, but then I use the tapes for mixing. I try to take the best from the past and the contemporary and the new. And the streaming is, well, it's a very democratic way of being able to share with the world your what you do, and every musician can place the music on the streaming platform. This is something that was not possible before, but maybe, well, there are pros in that, and also you have dark side of the medal, that is maybe you are losing the beauty of listening, for example, to an album that was conceived as a book, like a novel. So I remember albums that you were listening to the album from track 1 to track 12, listening to them in a row, and it was a richer and wider experience than listening to a single song. And now everything is there is this fragmentation. So everyone is talking about singles, and of course, as an artist, I still like to think at my music in a way that is not too much influenced by the idea that my music will end on a platform where every song will take a different road. But I tend to work considering a project that is made of different songs together, and together they create the vision that I want. But then at the same time, I understand. The world is going in a direction, and I'm an artist, and I want to fulfill my desires, and I still think as I always have done.
Looking ahead to 2025, what are you most excited about then? With the album coming out and the tour on the horizon, what are you most looking forward to sharing with the audience?
Well, I'm very looking forward to play in the halls where I have to play, because I will play in exceptional places, like you mentioned the Royal Albert Hall, and then I'm going to Edinburgh for 2 shows at the castle. And then I'm playing in many other big places around Europe. And then there is, of course, the part of the tour is in Asia, where I haven't been for a while for the COVID that stopped everything a few years ago. And so I'm very looking forward to go back to China, Japan, and all these places that I always love to be connected with.
Do you notice any differences in the way audiences respond in places like Asia or in other countries?
Well, they are different, but it's surprisingly is, of course, it's a younger culture, connected to my music, and of course, when I play in Europe, I feel that my music is more in the roots of the culture. But there, it's very interesting because you discover that there is also a new possibility of being connected to what I do. And it's very surprising because I've been, for example, to India, and I'm going back now also, and to see how people are moved by what I do. And it's very beautiful because it means that music can cross borders, cultures, and languages, and touch the heart of the people. Just with one note, you touch it.
I imagine more with your music as well, because there also isn't a language barrier to overcome.
Exactly. The possibility of not having a language barrier, it's unique with the instrumental music, and the music that I do is like that.
Ludovico Einaudi, thank you very much for joining me on The Big Interview on Monocle Radio. That's it for this edition of The Big Interview. It was produced by Gunnar Gronlid and edited by Jack Jewers. From me, Laura Kramer, thank you very much for listening. Until next time, goodbye.